All rise for following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.
Hello and welcome to Following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2 and via the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. I'm Jon Norman. Alongside me for the next hour is Steve Harmison. I'm going to start with one of the many chats or comments that have appeared on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel chat facility. Silent Risto says, I'd like to never hear how England have more talent than Australia again. Consistency is talent, as is determination, game sense, mindset, etc. Having shots or bowling fast only gets you so far. And that's the end of the show. Harmy, that was a slog today, wasn't it? An absolute slog. Oh. And Jeetan Patel came out. I mean, they're running out of coaches, aren't they? I mean, we've had them all over the course of the last 3 days. I mean, this test may go to day 5. Someone from within the team is going to have to speak at some point. But, yeah, I mean, it's over. There's no doubt about it. England aren't chasing down 500, although it still looks like a pretty good pitch to bat on. But today, watching England, I just thought, how bad must Shoaib Bashir be? 10 overs between Archer and Stokes. Was it worth batting yesterday if you can't bowl? That's not a criticism, by the way. That's just where we are. But where are the other players that are going to stand up and battle with Stokes? Where have they gone? I thought that there was some admirable performances today from a couple of individuals, but the gulf between the two sides today looked as big as it has done at any stage in this competition or series. And that's even putting aside the fact that actually England bossed the first session of the day, but they needed more than that, didn't they? They needed to boss all three. And in the end, it was Travis Head, Alex Carey and Australia who have put themselves into a dominant position. And at some point tomorrow or on day 5, they're going to win the Ashes.
Yeah, they are. 350 in front. They've got enough now, I think, where England's body language is set, John. It's a tough one. You talk about the comments from the YouTube there, spot on, 100% right. Australia have just done the basics and the simple things well. And when you talk about professional sport and elite sport, when you talk about what's the difference between the good and the great, and what's the difference between a good player and a great player, where a great player does simple things for a long period of time on instinct, no problem, bang, that's the instinct to do. And more often than not, if you keep it as simple as possible. In Australia, all they've done to England is done the simple things. They've overcome pressure when they first went in, put the ball in the right area from both ends and created pressure. They've worked as a unit, worked as a team. It's not been rocket science from Australia. It really hasn't. They've earned the right to score runs. They've earned the right to grind the opposition down. And that, for me, is why Australia, they're in the position they're in. I'm just telling Scott, our producer there, I think I've been to the dentist 3 times in my adult life, and I've got so much pain going on here and I had to go to the dentist for the first time in a long time yesterday. And for me to get something then done with the dentist, I need to be sedated. And he asked me if I wanted to do it there and then. And I said, no, I've got to stay up through the night and I've got to do a show. And I'm like, I'm so regretting that decision now, to be honest. But look, it has been a tough day. You talked about Archer and Stokes. They give us a fighting chance. And let's be fair, when Green got out at 234 with 6 wickets in hand, you're thinking a bang, bang, all of a sudden England can potentially chase 320 and the momentum shifts and everything goes with them. But then you looked around the room and you're going, who's going to go, like you say, with Stokes to that point in your body and in your game when it's at rock bottom, to get themselves in a position to even chase 320, never mind 356 where they are now, and potentially 450, 500. And if I was Australia, if I got to tea time tomorrow and I'm still batting 650 in front, then I'd be 650 in front. I really would. I'd grind England into the dirt and say, right, you come with Bazball, you come, not disrespecting the game, but you come with a different plan, which you thought was this all singing, all dancing, reinventing Test match cricket, Lilac Hill, no Canberra, all that stuff that goes. And you're going to lose the Ashes after 10 days, having to potentially chase 600. We're going to make you lose this game by 400 runs or more. And that's exactly what's going on inside that Australia dressing room, because I know that for a fact, because I've been there. I was in Perth when Ricky Ponting's side in 6-7 after what happened in 05. They made sure that we lost that Ashes in a proper way. I think Pat Cummins is doing the same.
I remember it well. I've mentioned it many times. Watching Ricky Ponting walk off the field at the Gabba. He was dismissed for 194 or 196, and he was absolutely furious. And I thought, here we go. You know what? When you and we lost at Adelaide, it was written in the stars that England would lose that series 5-0 in 06-07. In 2013-14, when Jonathan Trott came home, Graham Swan retired, there was clear divisions in the camp. It became, and Mitchell Johnson and Ryan Harris. It's not all about England. It's about the brilliance of the opposition. It became clear it was going to be 5-0. Is this going to be 5-0?
Well, if Stokes is not bowling now, and we don't know yet, because, like you say, I mean, the physio's coming out tomorrow. I mean, Danny Rubin might do the media himself. I mean, that is a joke in itself. But I'm not going to have a go. I mean, that's one thing on a hell of a long list that we should be calling them out. I mean, if you've got a media obligation, you have to have a media obligation, and that's a team. So, look, Gene Patel said we don't know what's wrong with Stokes because obviously he's been on the field for the majority of the day. You talk about divisions, and we've seen, and there'll be people pick up on Stokes and Archer when Stokes was having a go at him, bowling at Mitch Stark. And Ben was 100% right. Yeah, as a bowler, you should never, ever set a field for a bad ball because you shouldn't be bowling them. And if you bowl them, you've got a long way between receiving the ball in your hand halfway through your run-up to get to the point of the turn in your run-up to go, right, get back on it, nail that length, nail where I'm trying to bowl, nail where... And England have been miles away in a lot of that. And Ben basically told them firmly that I'm not setting fields for bad bowling. Bowl at stumps. He's a number 9, number 10, even though he's got a few runs. And people might be picking up on a division and saying, Stokes is speaking like that to Archer. You've seen the character of the two of them fighting towards, with the bat in hand. Last night in that first session this morning shows that, they're a team still, they might be struggling performance-wise, but I don't think there's much division in this group. So I'm encouraged by that. I just think they're getting beat by a much better side. I really do. A ball in hand. We all knew a ball in hand. They were 10 times better than what England was. And I think with bat in hand, they're getting the right person at the right time to stand up. And when he gets in, he's cashing in, and he's making it really difficult for the opposition. Whether it be like we're seeing Head in Perth, we've seen Carey in Brisbane, we've seen even Stark in Brisbane, Nisa with a ball standing up. Australia are getting somebody to stand up, understanding the game is in their hands, and following through with the responsibility and making sure I'm going to win the game for my team. England haven't really had their moments because I don't think they've earned the right to be consistent enough to get their moments in their favour.
Kieran Longhurst says, how do England go about the chase? Do they try and go aggressive or do they try and block it out? We'll talk about that in a second. I agree with Archer. I thought that the body language between Archer and Stokes has actually been very positive, and Archer has answered any critics, and the critics were I found it... I defended Archer, didn't I? We actually had a bit of a disagreement after the Gabba. But, 50 and a 5 But he only bowled 10 overs today. Right? 10 overs.
He looked.
No, it's not a criticism. I understand. He is cooked. He's just bowled and batted, right? So it is what it is. But you talk about not setting a field for bad balls. Well, let me introduce you to Ben Duckett, because he was fielding for bad balls all day when Will Jacks was bowling. And again, no criticism of Will Jacks, because I like Will Jacks. He's a good player, but I didn't think he should have played at the Gabba. You know, it was a defensive-minded selection, and maybe he's going to score 150 and win the game for England in the second innings. But at the end of the day, if Shoaib Bashir isn't good enough to play ahead of Will Jacks, then a big question has got to be asked about the selection of this side, because you cannot tell me that Jack Leach would not have been a better option, and you cannot tell me that Liam Dawson wouldn't have been a better option.
Nailed it.
Right?
Nailed it. Yeah, nailed it. You've got it 100%. I mean, there's a whole load of things in this from the Shoaib Bashir stuff. To highlight Jack's playing second and third Test match, and having a go about, and I know for a fact you're not having a go at Jack, no. But the selection of the squad, 16 men, no spare opener, no spare keeper. When you're picking 16, you're only picking 16 men, and one of them bodies is Ben Stokes, the other one's Mark Wood. It stinks of we don't really want to let anybody else in.
Yeah.
Top seven has been by hook or by crook, these are my men. The whole Brendan McCullum, Baz Ball era has been a close shop. We're not going to let anybody in. You know, we're not going to pick anybody from county cricket. We're picking people from the past where, and the one person that did pick from county cricket, and this is where I probably will be critical of Stokes, he had that massive rant at him in the middle of Old Trafford because he wasn't doing what he wanted him to do. So it just seems as though this last 2.5 years is, we are going to back you. We're not going to let anybody in. I don't want this boys' club being interrupted. And it's come back to haunt him in such a way, like you say. I wouldn't have picked Jack Leach. I mean, I like Jack. He's a good bowler. He's a good kid. But I think he had run his race. But if you had any ounce, and this is where, and I know it comes down to, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, which is not normally like me, because I went for the selector's job and I had an interview, and I'm not throwing Keezy under the bus or anything like that. But when it was said that the captain and the coach, we don't want anybody sort of coming in and challenging the captain and the coach, it's probably why Alex Stewart, the great man Alex Stewart, pulled out the day before the interview. I didn't get to find this out until going through the interview process, which I enjoyed, by the way. And I don't like having a go at them too much. But if the captain and the coach aren't getting questioned and challenged, if you've got any ounce of doubt that Shoaib Bashir might not play in the first, second, or third Test match, you had to take Liam Dawson. You had to. I'm not saying he's going to make a massive difference, but you had to take somebody who was spin hardened, who had a game plan on a surface which doesn't spin and does spin. I'm just listening to Graham Swan. Graham Swan, I mean, Swanee's a clown sometimes. And I mean, he's a hard listener in the middle of the night, but he actually keeps you awake, because sometimes you agree with him, sometimes you disagree with him, and sometimes the tone of his voice just keeps you awake. But they're talking about county cricket. Jayden Patel mentioned the county cricket, and Swanee gave a great lesson on how you learn to bowl in county cricket. Forget not getting picked when it's cold. Forget having a mentality of, first 6 games of the season, it doesn't spin, it's on green wickets, it's freezing cold, whatever. Graham Swan's just said there, this is how you learn to bowl like Nathan Lyon did in the first innings, in the first half of the season, where you have to hold an end and contain on a flat pitch, give your bowlers a rest in warm conditions, and then transfer that to the back end of the season when it spins in September to get the bulk of your wickets, do the bulk of your bowling, and really win a match for your team. Now, Liam Dawson's learned how to do that over the last sort of 14 or 15 years. So if you had any inkling that Bashir wasn't going to play, you had to take Dawson. And this is where I feel for Will Jacks. I look at Shoaib Bashir. People are talking about Shoaib Bashir, like Michael Vaughan saying he should have played, and Shoaib Bashir he was a frontline spinner. Shoaib Bashir has been back for 20 games. Shoaib Bashir in Australia has bowled 49 overs. He's bowled 49 overs in Australia against Australia's second best and England's second best. He's got 2 for 266. We're not talking about a great hope of English cricket coming in. He's 20 test matches into his career where I think he's been lucky to play 15 of them. And I'm not having a go at the kid. I just think that's his skill set. So when anybody wants to have a go at Will Jacks, that's my argument, that we've picked him because he bats better than he bowls. We've picked him because we don't back our top 7, because we've gone so far down the road with our top 7. We can't change it. We haven't got the options to change it. We've arguably got a similar option with a bat than we have with our spinner. And we've dug ourselves in a massive hole. In a selection point of view, over the last 3.5 years, we've got no outs. So I think the Will Jacks, performance, selection, and what's happened with the spin department, I just think is another issue that's compounded where we have gone wrong going into this Ashes series.
Toka 5536 said Duckett had a great game chasing bad deliveries. Silent Risto says Brook is a perfect example of Bazball's failure. Unreal on flat decks and against average bowlers. Can't field, makes poor decisions with the bat. Showed his weaknesses by a legit team. I'm not sure I quite go with that. He played. He's scored more centuries overseas than he has in England, and there was an innings in Wellington where nobody else could bat, which was unreal. He also picked up 2 catches today, which I think were pretty good. But yeah, he's not performed to the level that he would have expected or hoped for sure. He said as much himself. Savage 1717 says Australian bowlers look like men compared to English boys. It's so poor and so disappointed. All of this is nonsense. It is all over. You didn't answer the question, Harmy. Is it going to end 5-0 Australia?
Yeah. I just can't see. I can't. Having been on the end of a 5-0, having been on the end of a 4-1. The 4-1, we got a test match win in the last test match. Shane Warne didn't play. Sydney didn't play in the last 2. We got on the right side of a wicket which suited our bowl, just as suited our bowlers on the 4th. We could expose a 4th innings pitch. We've seen all the sort of cracks on, I think, the Perth pitch when Ben Stokes made his debut. They were just as big. I think Australia sent Andy Bickle out as number 3 to try and nullify the new ball. Andy Caddick bowled brilliantly. It was a tall pitch, hit the deck bowler. And we had, obviously, me, Hoggard and Caddick. England get a game like that, then it might not be 5-0. But at this minute in time, I've seen a weary team walking off. I see Stokes in the fight with the body he's got walking off. Unfortunately, I can't see anything other than Australia grinding England into the dirt, potentially chasing 550 tomorrow and the next day, and then continuing it over Christmas, New Year, 5-0.
As a former bowler yourself, do you think Stokes will bowl tomorrow? It's guesswork, but what's your gut feel? And if he doesn't bowl tomorrow, is he going to bowl in Melbourne?
It's a hard one for Ben, because this is where the honest conversation needs to happen. If there's ever a conversation that's needed, Ben, we potentially need you for the rest of the series, even though the rest of the series is over. You might have to sit Ben down and say, look, I don't think it'd be a good idea for you to bowl tomorrow. It's not a defeatist thing, but if you throw the ball first thing tomorrow morning and I think you might have to have 2 plans up your sleeve. If you get Carey and head out in the first 7 overs, then you think, right, Stokes can bowl. England potentially have a go at chasing 400, 420 if they can bowl them out. If after 10 overs, 12 overs, that head's going well and Carey's still in, and Australia are 410 in front with 6 wickets in hand, I think Joe Root or Harry Brook as vice captain potentially has to say to Ben Stokes, no, mate, we need you as captain for the last 2 test matches. And the last thing we need is you to bowl some unnecessary overs. You're not giving the game up. you're just being smart with a body that you potentially think could go wrong over the course of half an hour period when the game's more or less already done. So if Stokes needs to bowl, why does he need to bowl? For me, it would be only reason is to keep them in potentially having an outside sniff of winning the game. And if that will be dictated to in the first half an hour. After that, you tell him to put his trainers on, which he won't do. But the last thing England need is Stokes to bowl tomorrow when Australia are 500 in front and him going the hamstring or the groin, or because he's pushing his body to the limit to start with.
Today marked the halfway point of the Ashes, day 3 of the third test, and Rogue A1 1679 writes this: genuine question, and Harmy, you can go long on this, okay? So I'm asking you this is not a debate. Genuine question, on what was the belief based on that England would at least be competitive in this series? Even if this isn't the best the Australian team ever, why was England overestimated? That is a great question. Can you answer it?
It is a great question. The things that England have done well overseas, they've shown they can win test matches away. Been to New Zealand, win test matches away. They've been to Pakistan, win test matches away. They won the first test match in India. And I think the way the series was set up, where there was a little bit of spiciness in Perth and a 50-50 wicket in Perth, not a 50-50 wicket in Brisbane, and then a flat wicket in Adelaide, would suggest that, like bygone days where you've gone to the Gabba, they've won every time in 36 years, and you go 1-0 down, and all of a sudden the whole Australia is on your case. It's always a difficult place to come back from. So I think because India won in Perth last year, England felt as though we've got a chance, a 50-50 chance in that first test match. And if we can silence Australia and we can get on, and they're all ifs and buts, and if we can get on top, all of a sudden the team that in the last however many, 30, 40 years, that come out of Australia that have not lost the first test match, Strauss is 10-11 when they drew at the Gabba, all of a sudden there's pressure on Australia. I think I would have believed that England thought Australia's batting unit up until about 4 weeks before the Ashes started, when Marnus was struggling and Marnus was out of the team. And remember, Marnus wasn't even in the test team, that the vulnerabilities around the top order, like England's 1, 2, 3, there was a chance that you could get Smith in early, brand new ball, and put pressure on him there. There was a lot of question marks over Cummins and Hazelwood, which didn't play in the first 2 test matches. So all these things were going in England's favour. We were built, apparently, that England's probably best batters were suited for Australian conditions, the harder, bouncier surfaces where Duckett plays well square of the wicket. Crawley plays the ball on top of its bounce. Root, yes, not got 100 in Australia, but in probably the form of his life in the last 3 or 4 years, that nobody scored more runs in world cricket than what Joe Root has in test matches. So with Archer, Wood potentially back fit, England were going to Australia, I think, with a genuine chance of competing in the series. And I think that was what was encouraging. I think all of us were in the back of our minds knowing that England's vulnerabilities of their top order, like Australia's, would come up against the relentless bowling attack of Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, Boland, Lyon. And that, for me, was going to be the challenge. It was always going to be, and I said 3-2 at the start. I could have gone either way, but I also said I can see Australia winning 4-1. For the simple fact that is, if this bowling unit performs, gets on top, and that's it. They're too good for England's top order and England's 1-7. But when you get to that first test match in Perth and you've got Brendan Doggett playing, no disrespect to him, second test match, Michael Neser playing, you've got to fancy your chances that this is the best chance in a long time that England can win an Ashes series. But unfortunately, like always it happens in Australia, once they get on top of you, you really struggle to get up off the canvas. And I think that's what I had in my mind, the hope that England would be given themselves the best chance possible to compete in Australia. And I think a lot of people who have been to Australia, that have been beaten in Australia, would say that, you know, the challenges that England would face, especially going our bowlers against their batters, would give us a chance to win a test match, win 2 test matches, and potentially put pressure on Australia to turn on themselves to give us a chance of winning the Ashes. But unfortunately, it just hasn't happened.
Larry Jerry 985 says, Stokes' whole plan was these Ashes. Anyone could have told him Pope is not a number 3, Bashir is not good enough, Crawley is average, and Aussie conditions have changed. We've had a lot of feedback, a lot of questions, a lot of comments in the YouTube facility on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. You do need to subscribe to the channel before you post a question or make a comment. So do that. While you go and do that, we're going to take a very short break. And coming up, we are going to cross to Australia. Cameron Ponsonby, talkSPORT reporter and correspondent for The Athletic, amongst other organisations, that will be joining us very shortly here on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and talkSPORT 2. And this is following on Ashes Inquest.
Hitting you for 6 with top order cricket conversation. Following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2. Hitting you for 6 with top order cricket conversation. Following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.
You're joining us here on talkSPORT 2, the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, on following on Ashes Inquest. I'm Jon Norman, alongside Steve Harmison. Let's bring in Cameron Ponsonby, who is covering the Ashes for various media organisations, including talkSPORT, The Athletic, Daily Telegraph, and Cricket et al. Cameron, today was bleak, right? Today was a bleak day. It was ugly cricket. And I suppose this may well be the day that any fanciful notion that England might claw their way back into the series or even make it competitive was put to bed once and for all.
Yeah, this was the day where Australia just kind of pushed on the bruise rather than making like the impact where it kind of hurt initially. Australia loves scoring third innings runs. So to arrive here, I knew that one of them was going to score a century, and I knew it was going to take Australia out of sight from England. We had moments of hope. We had Jofra Archer and Ben Stokes batting well in the morning, but then the efforts of Ben Stokes kind of hurt England in the afternoon because he wasn't then able to bowl because he was so knackered. And you had that moment where Australia were about 140 for 4, 2 quick wickets, delusion returned. You thought maybe this would be the great comeback that sparks the kind of Istanbul-style 3-2 victory, and it didn't happen. Travis Head in front of his home crowd. It was an amazing moment when he did get to his 100, but him and Alex Carey, 2 South Australian boys, well, just making England hurt, and that's how I think all the England fans here feel today. That and a bit pissed, to be honest.
Cam, you've just said the thing, the pushing the bruise. I like that. The one person who was really bruised is Ben Stokes at the end. You've been in the press conference. Has anything come that we've got to worry about, not only for this game, because I think this game's gone, but we've got 2 big games coming up, Boxing Day and the New Year's Test?
So the thing that makes me the most nervous about Ben Stokes' fitness is that they've said he's fine, because that normally means he needs surgery in about 2 or 3 weeks, because we've heard that before where kind of England go, no, there's nothing to worry about. Our man, our leaders, are they okay? Don't worry about him. Now, Jason Patel said, as far as we're aware, he's fine, which I always find an interesting thing for someone inside the camp to say, because it means he wasn't quite across the details. And his kind of summation was, Ben Stokes doesn't do anything at 80%. He was so knackered, he just wasn't able to bowl to his full potential, and so he didn't bowl at all. But it's not Will Jacks's fault at all. He's been asked to do this role, which he isn't qualified for. England were so desperate for another frontline bowler here. He's bowled 20-odd overs, going at 5.5 and over. Joe Root wasn't really able to stem the flow either. And when you just compare that head-to-head, I think if you want to understand why there's such a gulf in between these two sides, just look at the spinners in each camp. You've got Nathan Lyon, Australia's second leading wicket taker ever, versus Will Jacks being asked to do the job of an all-time great with the back catalogue of I think 50 first-class wickets at an average of 50. It's been tough. It's been tough viewing for England fans.
Cameron, you're out there, right? So one of the points picked up by Graham Swan on TNT's coverage was the lack of chat behind the stumps from Jamie Smith. He said, essentially, Jamie Smith didn't speak all day. It was a criticism. And also about the fact that when you looked at the body language of some of the England cricketers, you've got Joe Root who's running around and, he's got his body language up and everything's still, it's as though the game in the series is still on the line, but he couldn't see that from a lot of the other players. You're there. What about you watching out on the field? Did England look a beaten side today, a knackered side? Or is that just the kind of stuff journalists talk about and it doesn't really matter?
I think they've looked knackered since Brisbane, to be honest. It was that day where they bowled 70 overs, I think on day 2 in Brisbane, in the first real hot day of cricket they had, and they looked hooked. And the same things happened kind of here, where Adelaide across days 1 and 2, that was proper Australia. It was like high 30s. Yesterday it tipped over to 40 degrees. And Ben Stokes said before this test match he wanted to see the dog in England. He wanted to see that fight. And it hasn't really appeared. I guess it's easier to say it's appearing when in the first innings, Australia chipping the ball to mid-wicket or chipping it to cover, and they're all getting out and you're saying, yes, now England are fighting. But then over the course of the afternoon, they looked flat, and I wasn't surprised they looked flat because it didn't look like they were going to get a wicket ever, and they were hoping that, again, Will Jackson was going to be the man to do it. You're right in highlighting Joe Root and Jamie Smith as 2 examples. Joe Root is kind of one of these guys who kind of tries to artificially inject some enthusiasm. Him and Harry Brooks seem to have this thing where they do cartwheels and handstands at the start of each bowling innings, which I mean, in the wrong moment, I'm sure it'll get clipped up and be held against them. But I think for now, at least, I kind of view it as two guys trying to keep some fun in a quite sad situation, sporting wise at least. And then Jamie Smith, I mean, it's such a disappointing tour for him so far because he's been. I don't even think it's unfair to say he was kind of held up wrongly before as this kind of great hope of English cricket. He was averaging 60 after 10 tests. He scored the most amazing 180 against India at Edgbaston earlier this year. And for all the evidence everyone had, this was his kind of stage. He was this like freewheeling number 7 who was going to take the attack to Australia and be this point of difference. Australians didn't really know about Jamie Smith. Arguably, England fans didn't really know about Alex Carey. We found out about Alex Carey that he's an incredibly good keeper batter. And the Australian fans are kind of wondering what the fuss we were making was about this Jamie Smith lad, who's just seemed a bit timid. There was a review today where there was a caught behind. And Australia yesterday almost made a decision that this Snicko technology is broken. Let's just appeal for everything, make a fuss, and they're going to have to check it, and we might win one. We might win ourselves a wicket just through kick, basically. And I can't quite remember the batter, but there was a caught behind decision where Jamie Smith was part of the review process, and Ben Stokes was clamoring to his team, being like, someone give me the information. I'm over at mid-off. I can't hear it. You guys have the best view. And they reluctantly reviewed it at the last second, and Jamie Smith kind of did so with a grimace. And so, yes, I know it's a bit of a cliche, and Harmy will be able to speak to this better than, well, either me or you, John, but like, whether the wicketkeeper needs to be the heartbeat of the team and whether they need to be chatty and chirpy and loud to keep things up and about. Because at the moment, that's not something Jamie Smith is doing. But it was never something he was doing. And before, it wasn't a problem when England were doing all right. And now they're not doing all right. It's become a problem.
Yeah, I think we're nitpicking if we're... And I know what Swanee was saying, and Matt Pryor made the point in Brisbane, and they were both right. I think you do need your fielders with energy. You do need, your wicketkeeper to be vocal. But if I wasn't a bowler who sledged. I wasn't somebody who had a go at batters verbally. It wasn't in my nature. And if it's not in Jamie Smith's nature, I mean, it's not in his nature. That's not who he is. He's not a Matt Pryor type. So I think that's the least of our worries. And I think as well, Cam, when you look at it, when your bowlers can't hit 2 balls in the same area consistently time after time, it is very, very difficult to sort of keep going to the, come on, lads, we're going well, we're creating pressure, we're building this and building that, all the buzzwords are there. Unfortunately, when you can't hold an end up and then it's leaking at the opposite end, I mean, it must be very, very difficult for Jamie Smith and some of the fielders to give England energy when the ball's gone round the park.
I think it's apparently half of Will Jacks's overs today went for more than 6 runs. And we can get in some real statsy stuff. I think I saw a number from CricViz, which was basically, it was the highest percentage of overs that an England bowler has bowled where more than 6 runs have been conceded. There was absolutely no control of the run rate at all. And I always think when I watch kind of professional cricket, the ball goes in areas you expect it to. It's why bowlers are able to bowl to a field where there's only one fielder in front of square on the offside, because they hit the same area of the pitch over and over again. You can control where the batter is going to play their shots. With Will Jacks, unfortunately, again, I want to emphasise the point, it's not his fault. He's been asked to do this. He's getting swept behind square. He's getting cut in front of square on the offside. He's getting hammered down the ground when he does get too full. There's been no opportunity for England to stem this tide of runs. And I don't really know where kind of the good news comes from, because Jofra Archer, he hasn't played 3 tests, let alone 4 tests in a row in ages. Are we going to ask him to go into Melbourne again next week when he's bowled all these overs this week, and he's also been batting? Are we going to ask Ben Stokes to do the same if he can't be bowling, if he couldn't bowl today? Does this mean next week at Melbourne we're going to be Archerless and Stokesless? This is where my mind's going to now, of like, our best players might not be available, and every day I think it can't get worse. Every day so far it is. It's such a cheery series.
Well, this is what you've been warned for the last 6 months, Cam. So
they did tell me.
You can't say that you're surprised. Look, the reaction from the England cricket fans after that defeat at Perth was as angry as I've ever seen or heard. I've never known anything like it, actually. What now? I mean, Adelaide is, of course, the famous ground where England somehow managed to lose despite hitting 550. I remember what it was like because I was standing on the hill for all 5 days of that, and there was a sense of horror from essentially after the first dismissal on day 5. Is there still anger there, or is everybody now just resigned to what's going on?
To be honest, I haven't come across much anger since that kind of second day of Perth, where there was a bit of a shell shocked nature to everyone. You wander around the stands, and in the same way you just said to me, John, you've been warned about this for 6 months. Like, this is what happens when you come out to England. I think the England fans potentially feel more sorry for the ones at home who have to wake up to it every day rather than living it. Those people out here, they've got a beer in their hand, they're chatting with their mates, they're on an adventure of a lifetime. I think if you come out here to watch England win, it's a risk, and you know the risk you're gonna take. I think Australia have an opportunity to do something quite funny over the next 24 hours, because they can keep batting. They know that England are likely potentially still a bowler down, or not. Ben Stokes not at 100% down tomorrow. They could leave England around 500 to chase in 4 sessions and go, well, you said you chased anything, have a go. What's going to happen here? Because they'll have to go for it. And maybe that will be the final kind of nail in the coffin, and the way Australia win this series by taking the 10 wickets. Or it could be the moment that focuses the mind and England come out all guns blazing. You see, we can always get back to the delusional moments, and that there's a chance, there's hope.
I mean, Cam, just finally from me, you're in Adelaide. I mean, it hasn't been the greatest of tours, but you're in a great place, aren't you?
Oh, you'll never get me complaining about being out here ever. I wanted to do this forever. I wanted to see an Ashes tour away forever. And to be honest, I feel like I'm getting the authentic experience. If we'd won, I'd have felt like this isn't right. I needed us to lose 5-0 just to experience the misery on the pitch, to contrast with the joy off it. So no, I think my message is, don't feel sorry for people out here that they're having a lovely time despite the cricket. Those of you having to wake up and watch it through the dark, yeah, my heart goes out to those guys.
Yeah, we're not waking up, mate. We're just staying up. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's awful. I'm more jet lagged than my boss, who's just arrived in Sydney. How's that even fair? Anyway, Cam, thanks for your input as ever. No doubt we'll chat to you again throughout the Melbourne Test, or indeed at Sydney. Andrew McKenna of this parish has messaged and said if Stokes can't bowl, then he should bat at 3. And that would actually free things up. It means that you don't throw Bethel in when hasn't played any cricket and is probably not ready. And it means that you can just bring in a bowler. It's actually not a bad shout from Macca.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but we need our captain to be bat and ball, because we need our captain in the fight. That's the thing. You know, I'm looking down the list of the England team and seeing where the fight's coming from. We've got some naturally timid players, who I'm talking about body language and persona. If we want Ben Stokes in the fight, we need him bowling. I mean, we're asking a lot of him at this moment in time, batting at number 6, captain of the team, and trying to bowl 15 to 20 overs in the first innings, let alone do something in the second innings. If he isn't fit to bowl, it is a logical option. But if he's fit to bowl, which I think we need him to be fit to bowl, bear in mind you got 5 for in the first game, and we've got 2 or 3 seamers who can't pull a ball and 2 balls in the same area consistently. To go to 3 and bowl, I think that's a non-starter. So
he's saying if he can't bowl.
Yeah. I'm just saying the options because there will be. I can guarantee, John. I can guarantee the minute this Test match is finished, Michael Vaughan, Nasser would say. I don't think Nasser would say it, and I don't think others would say it, but Michael will definitely say Ben Stokes should bat 3, and be 1 or 2 others that'll be saying we need Ben Stokes to bat 3. We need Ben Stokes to bat 3. He only bats 3 for me if Macca's right, and Macca's right that he can't bowl. But if he can't bowl, we're even more in a world of pain, because you then haven't got a frontline spin bowler. You then have to go to Shoaib Bashir, because the clamour for what's been happening this week and last week, Shoaib Bashir will play in Melbourne. I mean, that's a baptism in itself. You are 20-odd years old, question marks on your playing. You've been left out for a part-time spin bowler, and then go and lose a toss on a potential flat wicket in front of 100,000 people in the MCG. Good luck, Shoaib Bashir, with that. Oh, and by the way, Ben Stokes is not bowling either, so you've only got 3 seamers to go with. I mean, that would be catastrophic for England if that happened. Australia Dear Runker 8155 has asked why England
why can't England bowl a negative line to stop runs? I think we've probably covered off why Will Jacks can't do that. But what about the other bowlers?
We tried today, and they're still going at 6 and over. I mean, Travis Head today. I don't want to sort of keep going on how badly England have gone, but I mean, you go with a new ball, and you know for a fact this is the difference between the bowling attacks. You know for a fact you want to pitch it up to Ben Duckett, try and get him playing with a straight bat, hitting the ball back down the ground of a full length will put Ben Duckett in trouble. Mitch Starks got it perfect. I mean, Cummins did it, Doggett did it, Nisa did it perfectly. Now, Travis Head's something similar. If you can get him in and around, you can get it full, tied to off stump, getting him to hit you back down the ground, playing with a straight bat, defending with a straight bat, or attacking with the straight bat, then you have a chance of getting him out. But Archer's bowl a good over, and then the next over goes for 6 or 7 because the ball on fit stump, short and wide, bang, 4, bang, 4. You know, easy 3 down to third because we haven't got anybody down there because we can't cover all that sort of big open space. And the pressure's released. So England tried to bowl a negative line towards the end of the day there with Bryden Carson, Josh Tongue bowling well outside off stump. But Travis Head he either, when he got tight to off stump, he moved outside leg stump and give himself natural width. Because he said, I don't think you lot can bowl at the stump consistently. And then when they did try and bowl outside off stump and try and do the containing with a 7-2 field, he just walked over and he stood on off stump and said, right, I don't think you can get me out LBW. I don't think you're going to hit my pads. So I'm just going to stand there. And if you're going to go that negative line, I'm going to belt it to the fielder that's on the boundary with a view that if I hit it hard enough, I'll open the blade a little bit more. I'll get past him and I'll get for 4. So England did try and bowl negatively, but we're still going at 6 and over because they didn't really have that control on it or the control of length more than line. And that is an issue that has been lacking from England for the last 2, possibly 3 test matches.
Okay. I think we've got Malcolm Conn has been on the Sports Breakfast with Alan and Jeff and the team for much of the last 3 test matches. He was on again yesterday, I think. I think we can hear him.
No, he's on this morning.
Oh, it was this morning. I think we can hear him.
Yeah, because it kicked me off for him. And I mean, I got a message late last night to say, I think things might not be going well for England. We're going to get Malcolm Conn on. There's any chance you can sort of stand down because Malcolm is probably more on his high horse and he's longer run up than what you are. And he's better value than you droning on because you've been up all night because you've had enough of England having a bad day. So it'll be interesting to see what Malcolm said this morning.
Okay, let's have a listen.
It's been a terrific day for the record crowd again who's packed in there. Looking at 200,000 over the 4 days. It should go that long given that England have dropped a couple of catches.
Malcolm, we can talk about a load of quality performances from the Australian team, but have you been impressed with anyone on the England team?
Well, Jofra Archer's turned up in this test match, so he's been all right the last few days. He bowled well, got 5 wickets, made 50, which was rather embarrassing for everybody batting above number 10, with the exception of Stokes perhaps. But look, they were terrific in Perth on that first day. I don't know what's happened. I just think that it all fell apart after they got in that winning position in Perth early in the second day and chucked it away. And they just sort of thought, well, we've given it our best shot and that's the best we can do. So it's really disappointing from the way they started. And you got blokes sort of, the Australians bowling can sort of hit a handkerchief and Cast can't hit a tart. So
Malcolm, after this one, the 2 remaining, Sydney and then Melbourne. I've got some friends going to Sydney, and Melbourne's a great one. Do you think it'll affect the capacity, the crowd at all, or will the Aussies go and just rub it in?
Oh, mate, they're playing the Poms, and the Poms are getting beaten, so I reckon that tickets will be at a premium. I just think all this nonsense about being competitive, you don't go and watch the Poms when you want to be competitive. You go and watch them to watch the Australians play well and flog them. And so it's been a very entertaining summer so far.
Yeah. And from Australia, who have we missed out? Nathan Lyon. Who have you really enjoyed watching?
Oh, well, I think you pointed it out before. Travis Head sort of stepped up into that opening position and has really set the game alight. If you think back to the start of the series when Australia had bowlers in doubt and their top order was messy, and then Khawaja got injured and Head had to go to the top of the order, and if you think at the last Test match when they only had one frontline bowler and still won by 8 wickets, it's been a remarkable performance really for a team that was sort of struggling in the batting and bowling department to actually dominate the series the way they have.
Yeah.
Malcolm, if you was an England fan, would you want the coach McCullum to step down after this performance?
Oh, I don't know about step down. I just think reappraisal. And if he's not going to change his ways, well, yes, because it clearly hasn't worked. I mean, Bazball's been great fun, but Trav Ball's been a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't stood up to scrutiny against top sides. They couldn't beat India at home. They can't beat Australia. So unless you can beat the top sides, you've got to find something else.
Malcolm Conn speaking on the Sports Breakfast yesterday. I mean, we're still a day away from the proper post-mortem happening, aren't we? We're still a day away from talking about what changes for the MCG, what changes after this series. But, we might be waiting a day or two, but those questions are already starting to be asked, and they're going to be painful ones.
And they need to be asked very, very quickly, because there's still a lot of, I still think there's a lot of good talent in this group. I just don't think it's being channeled in the right way. I think Malcolm, as much as it's not nice listening to Malcolm Conn at times, I actually thought he was quite reserved there. I didn't think he was.
Agree.
I think he was as pommy passion as he normally is.
I feel sorry for us.
Yeah, I think he's just had enough of sort of looking down his nose at England and thinking, right, it's not worth it now. But I think when you look at it, when he said there, reappraisal, look at how we play. And if McCullum's not going to change his outlook, I still think he brainwashes these players. And I think he brainwashes these players in such a way which, because Brendan's, I don't think Brendan's a coach. I think he's a mentor.
Sorry to interrupt, Harmy, but do you not get the feeling that maybe some of that England team have had a moment of clarity? The brainwashing, if that's the right term, has worn off. The about turn, the changes that England have made with the team selection of Jacks over Bashir after, I don't know what the last 3 years has been about, and then suddenly they changed tack. The go slow with bat in hand, admirable and correct though it may be, that completely flies in the face of what this team has always been about, running towards danger and being proactive with the bat. I mean, even the comments after that first Test match when, Stokes seemed to suggest that the manner of the dismissals was the reason England lost that game, to overtly attacking, essentially, but they're not attacking enough. Do you not think that suddenly a few people are waking up and going, actually, we're not sure we quite believe in this anymore?
I don't think they're waking up thinking we don't believe this anymore. I think they're waking up, putting their kit on, going out to bat, going against proper bowlers, Test match cricket bowlers, and they're not, and we are potentially not good enough to play that way. So we have to try and find a way. Stokes is finding a way. These are, other than him and Root, they're the only two that have looked like, dealing with the pressure that Australia have put on, and then potentially coming back and putting England in a better place because of the streetwiseness of their bowlers, respecting the lines and length the opposition's bowling, and trying to put pressure on in a different way by grinding Australia into their third and fourth spell. I mean, that's not sort of running away from plan A, which has been trying to hit a bowler off its length. You can't hit a bowler off its length. It's consistently putting you under pressure. You sometimes have to absorb it and say, right, I'm going to wait until you get tired, then I'm going to belt you. England haven't even got to that point, other than probably 2 or 3 people. So I think what I mean is that this game plan of being brainwashed by McCullum, I actually don't think because he's not a sort of technical coach and he's more of a mentor. I mean, when England are when some of these players are in trouble, technically, I just don't see how he helps out. I really don't. And like I said before, when England have been successful, have been under deep thinkers. McCullum's not a deep thinker. You know, he's a maverick, and we are run by maverick. He's a maverick. Stokes is a maverick. Brooks a maverick. All of a sudden, you've got the one that they're listening to the most is the biggest maverick. Now, are we good enough to play this way? Well, we are, like Malcolm said, against New Zealand and Pakistan and people like that. We're not against India. We're not against Australia, especially in their own back gardens. And I think that is something that needs to be looked at straight away. You know, there will be changes. There will be calls for heads. Stokes, for me, doesn't go anywhere. I'm not going to sit here and call my best mate out in Rob Key, because I think he's done some great things, some really good things for English cricket at the top. And, you know, from where we were when we were in the West Indies, John.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
it's been a wild ride, Harmy.
Yeah, it has. But when we look at the coach, I don't think we've got a coach. I think McCullum would have been a very, very good mentor and a very, very good sort of, not assistant coach, but somebody being around there. But for somebody to keep the wheels on when things aren't going so right, and somebody to keep people grounded, and somebody to respect the game and understand the game. When we're playing against India in India or against India at Australia at home, then I think that's where I think we've fallen short when it comes to the leadership of this team, and the pitfalls of playing very, very tough, challenging Test match cricket. There's a whole load of things that can go in with there, which we haven't got time for.
We don't.
But I think,
but we do. We've got tomorrow.
We might have tomorrow and the next year. But when we look back at this, I think everything from how we prepared to what the squad looked like, to the numbers we took over, the players we had with the Lions, the potential pitfalls and changes that we needed if such and such went down and got injured or lost form. I think that is as big a problem as what's been on the field.
Harmy, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about that tomorrow after day 4 and probably on day 5 as well. England are staring at defeat. There's no two ways about it. And at some point tomorrow or on day 5, they are going to lose the Ashes. And we're going to be here on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and talkSPORT 2 to reflect on that. Also available via the following on podcast feed. So subscribe to that and the YouTube channel. And we will be back tomorrow. Thanks for joining us on Following On Ashes Inquest.
Hitting you for 6 with top order cricket conversation. Following on Ashes Inquest on